You are now about to witness the awesome, crushing might of the neighbors. They love me. They love me this early. KNUCKLE! Oh, gotta save the throat. I got some recording to do later on today. That's why I dropped it in octave. As far as I know, an octave has something to do with the gas you put in the gas tank. No, Eugene, that's octave. Says you. Welcome, my friends, to a show that apparently, seemingly, almost never ends, at least for another 8 more. That's right, I said it. But we're here to discuss our UFC 214, the glory of DC, the gloriousness of JBJ, Johnny Tony, and very specifically some Roganomics. But not before we hit it up with Stigmata. Calling of the Just. Bob Riley sings the words that tie it all together on a song called Intro All of Nothing. The CD, the CD is still available from Revelation Records in Huntington Beach, California. There's the plug. Buy it. I'm on my way back to nowhere. I took my time. I could not see so clear. I'm taking a real good look at your face. Being paid back and for always nothing. My friend, welcome to a show that seemingly apparently never ends, at least for another 8 more, which means about 2 months if things work right. So here we are. And now one of you commenters in the Twitter section said something like, I'm understanding this UFC or MMA as drug parallel that you make, Eugene. And he said this before the fight. I haven't checked it. There have been so many comments flying hither and yon. I guess I'm virtually, if I got my ass at the bar, I'm virtually live tweeting during the event for those of you who are paying attention. Me with the produce the wallet, open the wallet, ask for a glass of water 8 times, and then realized that I was sitting in the solo chair right by the front, one of the best seats in the house, right by the speaker so I could hear, and then I had to take a leak. And I don't talk to anybody if I go. Specifically, I went alone because I couldn't, the wife had the rhinestone. We got a national pole competition, which is amusing. Poles for pole coming up in LA. And so she had some rhinestoning to do. And so I sat there alone, and then I realized I can't get up. I can't get up because if I get up, I move my feet, I lose the seat. But I did have a glass, and it was quasi-dark. Eugene, don't tell me you removed your penis from your pants, put it in your glass, and urinated in the glass that you had been drinking out of, because people would think later that it was not indeed urine, because who would do that, but was beer that you hadn't consumed or weren't interested in drinking because it was too warm. You can't take me anywhere. Fuck that. So this was post-fight. You might be able to appreciate the Sorry. I didn't do that. I just made that up. Come on. Am I the kind of guy that would urinate in a glass in the middle of a crowded bar because he didn't want to go to the toilet and lose his seat? All right. So post-fight, the comparison to drugs seems pretty apt. I don't know about you. I went to sleep thinking about the fight. I woke up thinking about the fight. And that's if you can count what I did called sleeping. I don't know if you've ever consumed narcotics, but this is should be a familiar pattern to you. And I have to say, you know, look, there's a guy I know. I don't know if you remember the movie Tango and Cash. And I've told this story before. I'm going to keep it brief. And Tango and Cash is also the name of a certain type of heroin in the 80s in New York. And it was really powerful, right? And these guys I know who were junkies had this thing. And they said, look, if one of us ODs, don't call the fucking paramedics, right? Just let ride the high out. We'll pull out of it. I mean, that's not the definition of overdose, but we'll pull out of it. So one guy ODs, the other junkie who's kind of like, hey, he panics, calls the paramedics. Paramedics come, take him off the hospital, shoot him up with Narcan. Guy fucking escaped. They don't chain him to the gurney, so he jumps up because it's criminal possession. He jumps up, escapes from the hospital, runs back and finds the guy that he was high with and goes, you fucking owe me. You owe me. You ruined my fucking high. That's how good Tango and Cash was. That he would rather have died on it than to have been saved on it. I'm not saying UFC 214 was that powerful of a kick, but it had a pretty fucking potent kick. For those of us who had been lost in the miasma of confusion about why indeed MMA was even a sport we paid attention to begin with, a pleasant fucking reminder. A pleasant reminder. I mean, you know, like Slick Rick says, it's like a day when nothing seems to go your way, except the exact opposite. I mean, I can't even explain to you the stagecraft that goes into this, right? You know, there's some. I would say that Oxbow's guitar player is a master at doing this as well. It's pretty simple. If you played as many shows as Oxbow has played, you move your gear on stage, you set up your gear, you sound check, and then you begin the show. It's very simple. Plug in, turn on, play the music, get the fuck off. But I don't know whether he does it on purpose, whether it is a matter of stagecraft or it's just the way it happens. But on stage, the height of anxiety has been reached by the time he hits that first note, because you don't know if he's ever going to start. There could be problems with the equipment. There could be problems here. The string and the guitar and the head, the neck, and things like that. So you never know. So there's this waiting, it's anxious, waiting, anxiety, waiting, anxiousness, waiting. And then it actually happens. And everybody's like, there's this like squeezing a sponge. And there's Meister Eckhart called it ebulitio, EBULLITIO, this overflowing. In his instance, he talked about overflowing of a godlike essence. In this instance, we're talking about, you know, a kind of communion between the performer and the audience. In the instance of UFC 214, very specifically, we're talking about none of us believed, or rather, we all believed in the high likelihood that this fight would never happen. Did you see when Johnny Boney Joni says at a certain point, "Hey, I made it," and the entire audience was like this. We didn't think it's funny, man. You know, when your dealer shows up and he's late and he's been fucking around, he just, hey, at least I showed up. Don't think it's fucking funny. Don't think it's fucking funny at all. I don't think it's funny, you know, because we all know. I mean, oh yeah, there's purportedly that thing in Jersey where he chased down the purse snatcher and beat up the malefactor. Who knows? Somebody should Snopes that. Somebody should Zapruder that and find out. Call the Newark Police Department and find out whether indeed somebody was turned in for mugging that night. This whole dream he had of doing a shack thing and he was going to be a cop and a sheriff. That was back in the crazy time. I mean, that's the only thing. If we didn't know that he was coked up then, we were never going to know. We were never going to know. Yeah, I'm gonna be a sheriff's deputy, man. I'm gonna fucking chase crime, man. I'm gonna fucking run around, bro. I got a fucking cape in the trunk. I'm gonna chase these motherfuckers. Look, he was, you know, boom, you know, and nobody knew. None of the rest of us knew that he was high. Come on. I'm ashamed of myself for not knowing. So my point is that could have gone the exact opposite way. So none of us were joking around going into this. None of us, we got video in our head of Cormier sitting backstage somewhere, it looked like a dressing room or a locker room, finding out that Johnny Boney Joni tested positive for dick pills, right? Whatever. So it's likelihood I made it. Haha. Not funny, man. Not funny. Not funny. Okay. So he does make it. Nobody laughed. He does it. So the tension, you know, and it's not just from his side. The weight of this is not carried by Johnny Boney Joni solely. You know, there was a towel gate, and the Popeye Fried Chicken spokesperson, DC, who, you know, penchant for coming in, and that wasn't the part. He's okay. I'll never make that mistake again. I'll never come in too heavy again. I'll come in too light. Oh, and then there's a kidney thing, and then the kidney shut. So there was a possibility that, and it's happened, you know, like Hannah Barrow, do a little dab will do you. Most of you who under 40 won't know what the fuck I'm talking about with a little dab will do you. But a little dab will do you. It's a commercial about hair pomade from back in the 50s and 60s. Brill Cream, I think it was. So from DC side, we don't know what the fuck. These guys, they make it, and everybody, you could feel it. It was like my guitar player fucking around with his amp as they start to, Johnny Boney Joni comes in first. And he's nervous. And believe me, you're not as tuned into a human being in very many instances as you are tuned in. I was sitting directly under a ceiling fan in that seat that I refused, which was great because in it, the big gusts wafting out over the crowd was the accumulated stench from my cup of urine under my. Now I didn't really do that, but if I had done that, that's what it would have been like. So the whole place would have smelled like my piss. But it's a good thing that I didn't do that. The civilizing influence of women. Absent that, all kinds of things could happen. So I was sitting under a ceiling fan, so I was cold, and I had on this shirt actually. So my arms were, you know, I was rubbing my arms, but I was gripping so hard, I was trembling. And so now I'm paying attention to, you know, right, driving along, you might be 50% attention, and you could die driving. Watching this fight, I was like 97% dialed in attention, and I'm watching Johnny Boney Jr.'s face as he comes in for all kinds of, no, look at him, he's nervous, no, God. I'm dialed in like I was like probably last time I was this dialed in, it was looking into the face of in the eyes of my wife, or, you know, when my children were born or something like that. You know, you're dialed in. DC comes in and he pauses, and then I'm thinking about Bukowski, Charles Bukowski. He said, you know, any fighter that's doing all this crossing stuff before he fights is gonna lose. I'm like, oh my God, because I know what you know, what the jungle knows. And that's that Johnny Boney Joni has got to win this fucking fight. Not for him, for the sport, which is for me and for you. He has got to win the fucking fight. In the same way that they snagged Anthony Rumble Johnson for this press conference. He's like, yeah, I'm just here to see the fight as a fan. So what do you do? So all this stuff about him doing security for the guy, turns out it wasn't that. He's gone into business, medical marijuana in Canada. Oh, this guy he met, let him invest. Oh, he let you invest, huh? I tell you what, son, I'll let you invest in CFY Enterprises. Oh, they put out all kinds of things, Stigmata CDs, and they license Oxbow music. Fly, I mean, it's kind of, I got a lot of top flight investors. I don't know if I could let you in. I don't know if I could do that, but maybe, and I'll give you a special starter price. A mil. Fucking Rumble. So Rumble's in the medical marijuana business in Canada. Right as it's getting legalized all across America. Cartels are losing their hold and shifting their attention to opiates, which is why we have an opiate problem. Price of marijuana is dying. There's a surplus of weed in California. I'm glad I won, mama. To understand that reference point, you're going to have to go back to a men's room in Las Vegas and see the former Bronx bomber, Joe Louis, handing people towels. Because that's what he said after one of his fights, was taken to the fucking cleaners. I don't know. Maybe it's a good investment. What do I know? I'm a guy sitting around in his underwear with a fake pipe. What do I know? So so even the jungle, because let's go back a bit to Rumble against DC. Rumble wants to quit, wants to be out. He can't beat fucking DC and then leave. He can't leave with the belt and retire. He knows that. I know that. You know that. The jungle knows that. Could this be a possible explanation to his previously inexplicable efforts to try to shoot in on an Olympic wrestler and then turtle up against the cage and get choked out? Don't know. But the jungle knows some things. And by the jungle, I mean our collective will and desire. That the scheme on a DC is short-lived anyway. He's going back to being a commentator. The money is regular, which means the rewards are even, and the downsides are non-existent. You get fired. When you get fired from fighting, they carry you out. Even the jungle knows. And this ties into the topography of America hating winners. You know, Johnny Bonigioni comes into Luke, Night in the Box. Luke Thomas said that he noticed something very strange because when Johnny Bonigioni, I mean, I can hear intermittently because I'm sitting in a bar. I don't know where Luke. Man's mother died, got a little rabbit in his blood. Think about going back to pay his respects, and his mind ain't right. Luke, a night in the box. So Luke said when Johnny Boy there was this amazing burst of cheering and then smattering of boos. It was because I tell you what happened with that. The first move, like my mother used to say, your first mind is your right mind, was all of us dialed in, 100% dialed in. And it was like that sponge. We was like, God, he's here. Oh, it's actually gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It was relief of anxiety. And then the smattering of boos as he kind of got to thing was people realizing, you know what, we shouldn't really be celebrating this guy, but we do. Because Johnny Bonigioni is no longer the guy that underscores the ways in which we have failed. But he is now the guy who understands the ways in which there's a minute difference. America hates a winner because a winner reminds us of the personal ways in which we've managed to fail continually. Why do you think the fucking Republicans were so put out by Barack Obama? It wasn't because he was fucking black. Look. That's a red herring. I'm gonna follow the stink of that. Well, what else could it be? Oh, I'm sure that's part of it. I'm not saying. I think maybe that's part. I'm very sure that was part of it, but that wasn't the spear point. The spear point wasn't that at all. Because if he was a black cat from, Choate, if he was a black Bush, it would have been very, very different. America's relationship to class is very different. But he underscored for a large percentage of people who were sitting around trailers going, fuck, I grew up in a single family house. What the fuck am I doing in this trailer? Look at this prick dancing and prancing all over the place. being fucking cool. Fuck that guy. A winner reminds us of the ways in which we are inadequate. But what about a loser that wins? A loser that wins is us. America hasn't torn itself to its timbers because of this small scintilla of a chance that we could win a lottery. That's why there's no Bastille Day here. Yeah, we fought for independence and that, but I'm saying we haven't risen against the aristocracy because lotteries. So now we have an ascendant Johnny Boney Joni who is, warts and all. We love the warts. It's not the all that we love. The Apollonian figure that strides into greatness. We don't, fuck, man, that guy makes us feel like shit about ourselves. But this guy, we fucking love him and we feel guilty about it. And this is why the smattering of boo is there afterward. Because it doesn't come at all close to explaining why there was an outpouring of boos when DC comes in. This is in Anaheim. Anaheim. DC lives in California. Johnny Boy Joni is from New York who trains in New Mexico. This is California. This is LA, Los Angeles. Specifically, this is the part of Los Angeles that the Reagan country. And then what happened? When people cheer, they felt guilty as he gets in, so they're gonna clap. I clap for them both. DC is a friend of Knuckle Up, but you gotta, like Linton Kwesi Johnson said, I'm a merciless realist. The jungle wanted this. DC wins, he can fucking retire. Who wants a guy who retires with the belt, leaving a decimated division? At that point, you've got a decimated Johnny Boney Joni, not a resurgent Johnny Boney Joni. And you got guys fighting over scraps. Well, he's going to go against No Time. I like No Time, but that guy's fucking fight style's ugly. I got to see him in 48 seconds. So the jungle needed this. But that's the secondary issue. The primary issue is that this is a real sporting contest, right? Unlike Rumble and DC, where I think one guy was like, I know this couple, and the woman looked in the guy. They were recently married, or they were married. They knew each other in high school, friends of siblings. They ended up together, had a couple kids, and then she said to him in a weird moment, like the clouds parted, and she said to him, if there's one thing you would do that would be unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable, is if you had an affair. And it's like you could hear the clouds part of the angelic choirs, because she had given him a key. And this dude pretty much got up from that dining room table. The wife was scheduled to take the kids to visit his sister back in DC. He gets up, goes to his secretary, says, hey, let's have an affair. Like in a day. I'm sure he had been working on it. Well, where should we go? And against all sleazy male behavior, he goes, I got it. My wife's out of town. Let's go to my place. So they drive to his place in the middle of the day in an apartment complex, one of those like Three's Company apartment complex, horseshoe shaped. And he marches her up the stairs so all the neighbors can see, goes in for an hour, comes back out, and does this a couple times. She gets back with the kids, the neighbors, these chattering hens say, was that your sister who was over the time you were here? Sister's a woman. So she says, hey, what's this? He goes, I admit it. I am having an affair with my secretary. She goes, that's it. Throws him out, leaves. He dumped the secretary that week. And then got together and married a woman that he's been with ever since. And that was like 30 years ago. Dude liked being married, just didn't want to be married to her. And she gave him a key. My point is, very specifically, Rumble. I'm not saying collusion on this last fight against DC, but dude needed it. This is why I wanted out. Out. This was very different. What the jungle wanted was very much at odds with what DC wanted. DC wanted to win this, and despite the fact that it was disruptive, win it, retire. And he's like, I climbed a fucking mountaintop that involved insurmountable odds. The narrative behind this story, fan-fucking-tastic. Adrian! But, you know, the narrative on the other side was equally compelling and more tied into the zeitgeist of the American mind. You know? Yes, I struggle with it. And I mean, the dick pills thing, that, in all of this, I mean, if you look at the crimes and misdemeanors of Johnny Boney Joni, the thing that you don't have any defenders of, that you don't, I mean, I could create reasons around it, but it gets hard to be really super sympathetic, is a car wreck involving the pregnant woman that subsequently left in the wreck. That shit, that's over the line, right? Now, you can make the claim, if you want to do something exculpatory, that there was a car wreck, there was smoke, there was confusion, there were narcotics involved, and he didn't see who the other person was. He didn't, like, go to her side door and go, oh, a pregnant woman, and then run off, right? I mean, that's really not what happened, but we don't know. We don't know if that's what happened. Oh, you're pregnant? And then run off into the sand dunes. I mean, we don't know if that's what happened. But it's hard. But everything else, I mean, look, if your heart didn't go out to Anderson Silva when he got popped with dick pills, it's like pretty much you can take the dick. I tell you, a friend of mine, when steroids and Viagra intersected, and this guy, he said, man, I'm fucking these women. I'm putting them to sleep. Because the steroids create a situation where you want to fuck 20 times a day. And now suddenly Viagra was creating a situation where you could fuck 20 times a day. He's rolling into these women and they don't even, I said, hey, are you telling them? It's a journalist in me. I know the answer. As a man, I know the answer. As a journalist, I had to ask. And he's like, fuck, no, why would I tell him? Of course, there's a flip side of that another friend of mine is going through right now. He's like, I got to get out of this. I can't, you know, it was like a sorcerer's apprentice type thing, you know, lays it down for 4 hours one time, lays it down for 4 hours 2 times. He's like, man, I got this young, he's dating some chick who's 23. He's like, this is 3 times 4 hours. By the 4th time, he's like, Jesus, boy, more. How I can't keep it up. This is, you know, tanked up on steroids and dick pills. That's one thing to be enjoying the use of dick pills. It's another thing to have that shit on public blast because you know the wife is going, oh, dick pills, huh? Well, in the period of time that you purportedly were taking dick pills, you and I had sex once a week. So. And I don't recall having sex on the night that you, but you know, and that's Eddie Murphy. It wasn't me. But I saw you come out. It wasn't me. Okay. Whatever he had to say to scramble and make that shit work at his household, good on him, I guess. So our hearts go out to him. The dick pills, the coke, the weed, the pot and the pot pipe in the background, the photo, the selfie, the major missteps. But he knew what we all knew, what the jungle knew, what you knew, what I knew watching this fight, that this fight was going to be transformative. Or more specifically, it was going to mark a transformation and lives were going to be fucking changed clearly as a result of it, no matter what happened. And you can't say that about any fight. Whose life was changed by Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley? Whose? No one's. That's who. But DC against Johnny Bonijoni, lives were going to be changed. And indeed, they actually were changed. They came in as good. I mean, you know, both of these guys were smart about this. The Johnny Bonijoni that half-assed through an OSP fight was not going to be the guy who won this fight. And he knew he could half-ass it through an OSP fight because OSP is a half-asser. You don't think OSP is a half-asser? Really? Okay. This is probably not the show for you then. You probably need another type of show entirely. So he wasn't going to do it. So he had to crank it up. So it's like if you crank it up and I crank it up, I get 2 and you get 2, does that, even if that comes out to the same type of fight, if I'm DC, and it goes to a decision, I'm the champion now. I got more of an edge going into it, and more of that. Even if I lose to a decision, a split decision, I'm coming out making claims. You know, maybe I push it into a trilogy. Nah, Jungle knew this fight happened the only way it could have happened. You know, for us to believe that pre-fight animus, we had to see some guys, and I did some Zapruder action. We'll talk about that in a second. We had to see some guys who were motivated. You went up 2, I went up 2. You went up 4, I went up 4. You went up 6, I went up 6. So the ceiling was being raised. And Johnny Bonijoni was removing from the table these other pieces that people might have, because he had his pieces removed. Later, he could always say, man, I beat you while high. Just as easy to say that as it is to say, I lost while high. High being the causative agent. With the drug testing, all that, had that shit removed. He's like, okay, you remove stuff from me, I'm going to remove stuff from you. So I don't want to hear any excuses from him afterward about, because I know Kane was out, he couldn't train with Kane, he couldn't train with this. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to know this is the best. Because you won't hear any excuses from me. It's because you worry about you. You don't come with excuses. So they all removed all the support structures, all of the pre-excusing was removed from the table, and it was 2 men facing each other. And the Jungle wanted one thing, but you look for these disruptions, you look for the Rocky story. A guy sat in front of me and said, I'll take money now. I want to see 20 right now on DC. And this is after the first round. They closed the window in Vegas. You don't have to a certain bid, you can't bet. This guy was willing to do it, bet for DC. And there was game shit happening. I mean, the problem with Johnny Bonijoni's fight style is not that the problem is not the places in which he's successful, because success is not a problem. The problem is the places in which he fails. And he fights in a way that makes you nervous because he fails consistently in the same sort of ways. His hands are entirely too low. Given his height, he doesn't have an answer to the dirty boxing uppercut, that catches him. And you're not talking about a guy who's just ably delivering stuff, a sparring partner who's keeping you on an even keel, who's zeroing you out. But you're talking about a guy who's now 2, 4, 6 points above where he was before, and in a greater measure is trying to best you in a very serious way. There were some yips the first round. Second round, I thought to myself, if this goes to a decision, Johnny Bonijoni is fucking doing the loser's walk out of this cage. He's not going to win this thing. Because, he manages to, the problem is that he manages to be deficient in each area in which proficiency would help him. The ways in which he's successful is that in the same way, in each area in which he's deficient, he manages to be just enough better than the other guy. So it's like alone, boxing, deficient. But his deficient is still one peg up from DC. And it's a 5-round fight. And he's waiting. And what does he do? He pulls a GSP, which is fight IQ. And for those of you too young to remember this, what I mean by this is when GSP beat Matt Hughes. You know, when I fight, I know you guys don't need to hear about an old man's fight, but I used to use what I call the triangle. I would look from here to the navel. I would focus in a general way on that section, so I could tell if I was going to punch or was going to kick. Increasingly, I started to notice other fighters, like training with Kung Lee. Kung Lee never looked here. And he never told me, but I figured it out. Kung Lee was always looking here. I'm trying to de-signify my looking by looking in a general way at the torso so I can see where stuff is coming from. But in the same way that I've learned with jiu-jitsu to control my breathing, to conceal intent, he's looking in my eyes because no matter that I'm defocused on a centralized torso core, I'm still looking at where I'm about to go and what I'm about to do. Truest measure. GSP looks at Matt Hughes' legs. Matt Hughes responds because he expects the foot to be coming for a low kick, meaning the other leg will be posted on the floor. So he responds like he's going to go shoot a single, and GSP switches in midair, and that kick comes up and lays Matt Hughes out. And Johnny Boney Joni did the same way, but maybe not with his eyes. I don't know that I saw that when I zaprooted it, but what I did see was why I always get beat by tall, thin guys. Because he lifts a leg and DC responds. He's going for the leg that's posted, that's still standing on the ground, but Johnny Boney Joni's legs are so fucking long that it takes him longer to get there. But he feels safe because if his leg is that far back, then that means the threat from the other leg that's coming to him is going to be insignificant, especially if it's low. And he's like this, and in midair, Johnny Boney Joni doesn't make a correction because it was never intended to be corrected. It was intended to do exactly what he did, like GSP did against Matt Hughes. Rip, goes north and dabing. And it was the ear. And I don't know if you've been hit because, oh, he rang his bell. That came later. The ear is what fucked up the balance. And then Johnny Boney Joni advances and he's doing this stuff. And he's doing that. He doesn't know, maybe wouldn't articulate it this way. From my point of view, I say he's doing that to see if the guy responds to the minute adjustments. And then when he didn't, fuck it. Trip against the cage. And you know what? Hats off to Big John McCarthy. He's no Mario Yamasaki. He's also no who's the cat, the bald guy who after he made that bad call will just let fighters get beaten to death. Mirgliata. I counted 11 unanswered blows, hard ones. But you know what? You know what we're not talking about today? We're not talking about how it was a premature stoppage. Nah, it was right on the edge, and that's where those stoppages need to be. But I have to say, when you zaprooter that, watch it again. I've now watched it about 37 freaking times. Watch it slowly. So he gets him against the cage, and he whiffs the first hammer fist. And as he adjusts after that first hammer fist and starts to deliver these left hands under, I don't know how the camera angle is on the right side, but you get a glimpse of Johnny Boney Joni's face. And like Bruce Lee said, and like I subscribe to, I said, I fight with emotional content, not angry. However, I know my emotional content gets closest to anger in times when, you know, and you see his arms kind of come up and you see this glimpse of him underneath his, either in this section or under here, and you see this glimpse of Johnny Boney Joni, and he's like, because, and you think, oh man, he's really digging into this guy because that's not, DC is symbolic. Symbolic. and proof of this is coming up in a few seconds. He is symbolic. Symbolism can get you hurt. You know, I mean, at one point somebody was, somebody said to Himmler about, saving some Jews, it was like, could you maybe cut this guy some slack? He was my family doctor, blah, blah. And Himmler looks at him and goes, we all have our favorite Jews. I mean, even Hitler supposedly had there was some dispensations he wanted to make, But then there was somebody like Heydrich who said, nobody gets out of our kettle alive. An absolutist. But symbolism can get you hurt because at that point where he's hitting DC the fighter, this guy represents the past 2 years of what he calls darkness. I mean, what's baffling to us and not baffling to us at the same time is that Johnny Boney Joni knew at a certain point what was on stake. When you're wearing that fucking orange jumpsuit, you know what's in stake. I don't know if you've ever been thrown in jail, but like Charlie Manson says, bang, clang, bang, went the big iron door. They put me in a cell with a concrete floor. 9 other men in that cell with me, moaning their fate with destiny. There's a finality that how much Russia weighs, man. Finality, miserable. And if you got rich brothers, you got buffers, but you're gonna be happy shining your brother's car on Sunday? No. His brother still says, I'd kick his ass. Come to Thanksgiving dinner, I still take him. A UFC champ, my ass. So, so he was at that point, Big John McCarthy did the right thing, and then there's the terrible mummery afterward of the struggle and him trying to get back. And God, if you've not been in that position, you got to know your mind is not right. Your mind is not right. It's not right. He's pushing, and John is grabbing the wrist, and he yanks the wrist like he's getting out of the cage, and over the shoulder you could see Dana fucking like a champion that you are, and he still refused to go up. And he's, I mean, one thing you could say about DC, this was everything it was promised because it wasn't stage managed. You could live 1,000 lifetimes if somebody was to tell you that standing on a stage in the middle of a cage, sobbing your fucking guts out was going to be something that you were likely to want to be able to do. You'd be a fucking liar. I'm going to tell you what the D-Man said. He said, man, so the interview was on the UFC's YouTube page. You'd think they'd give the guy a break. I mean, I know that he was severely concussed and suffering from a number of things that should keep a microphone away from him. Doesn't matter what I think, that interview is going to haunt him. Normally, I don't like seeing fighters cry, but this feels like the end for DC. Seemed like he's got 1 or 2 left. Maybe one fight in San Francisco where he can main event the TV card and go out on top. But he's got to be focused on post-MMA life, and that interview won't help. He's done. He's done because I want him to be done, because the jungle wants him to be done, because very specifically, I think he wants to be done. Go watch the movie The Duelist. Harvey Keitel wandering the fucking countryside. You have to pivot now and focus on the things that make a difference to you. You've only lost twice. You've lost twice to the same guy. You're not going to fucking fight this guy a 3rd time. The reality of it is fighting at this point makes no sense. You're beating everybody of note. You're going to stick around and gatekeep for somebody else. Go, at this point now, hug your wife, kiss your kids, talk to Javier, talk to Fox, make sure you got a 5-year contract out of him, and retire, man. Got nothing left to prove. Come on over, officer. I got nothing left to prove. And this was aided and abetted by I mean, this was full of surprises and lives were transformed. Johnny Boney Joni's take post-fight was fucking class. It could be the Hollywood thing of sincerity is everything, and once you got that fake, you got it made. but it was nails. He's like, this guy is a fucking champion. He's a kind of guy I aspire to be. They're both fathers, so it's not like fatherhood is gonna. I mean, clearly Johnny Boney. I mean, Jay-Z said it best. He's like, when he was talking about fucking cheating on his wife, he's like, you know what? You can't actually do this. You can't do this stuff and be full of shit. And shit is like rotten meat. In fact, they're pretty much the same thing. It stinks, and then but the problem is when shit stinking is doing you a favor. Shit stinking is saying, here I am, here I am, here I am. But there's a point at which shit stops stinking. It doesn't mean it's any better for you. You can't eat dried shit, or you shouldn't. But it becomes part of the environment in a way that's not healthy or helpful for anybody. So like Jay-Z said, I just built my fucking life on this shit. Especially if you're a celebrity. Got people wanting to suck your dick 24 hours a day. I have to decide that I want to live a bullshit-free lifestyle. If you're designed to live a bullshit-free lifestyle, you can start to examine the ways in which the ways you fail start to apply themselves. If you're paying attention, when do you start fucking up? Me? I start fucking up when I'm under fucking pressure. Tension, anxiety, and then suddenly I start to see ways that I could fuck up that I didn't even see before. Like, I don't do it. You know why? Because I don't want the shit there. The shit that maybe I don't even smell anymore. Johnny Boney Joni is looking at DC and going, man, this is a guy, he's got a wife, he's got kids. Like, I got a wife, I got kids. How is he holding it together? Well, 8 years sometimes makes a difference, bro. Difference between 38 and 30. Big difference between 38 and 48. As evidenced by my friend who, after 5 times of putting it down for 4 hours, was like, enough. I said, you know what? You should read my book. This is what book is that? It's called The 3-Second Load. The 3-second load, what's that about? Using your time wisely. 3-second load. It's so over. I got stuff to do. No time. I'm joking. Now that came from being with a woman who, I mean, it was like you literally an hour and a half. It would take. She goes, I don't know what it is. You just got to hold me down so I can have it. An hour and a half. I'm holding it. What the hell? What the hell? Nah. I'm going to go the other way. As soon as I break a sweat, I'm busting a nut. Then I'm out. That's it. That'd be fucking hour and a half sweat pouring down. Who am I trying to prove? What am I trying to prove? So anyway, it was a heartfelt, and he falls, he starts to cry because there was a lot of tension built up behind this. A lot of tension without the usual supports. You know what I mean? Mini mart supports. A lot of mini mart supports. Absent mini mart supports. So, as real as it gets, this was as real as it got. And it was totally transformative. And like somebody, I think it was Victor Rodriguez, said, this is the trifecta, and he hit it. Said really gracious shit about his opponent. Heartfelt thanks to us, including the haters. Like, I know everything I got. I mean, look, I've been in positions where, this Christ thing, where it's like, it's real, like in Clockwork Orange, this is a real sad and weepy part of our tale. And I've been there. Yep. I might still be there. 5 years. And, sometimes you just got to take it. You jump out of the back of that truck, you pick up that fucking rock so you don't get your head stove in. And then he does the perfect thing, number 3. Picks a super fight. I mean, everybody's watching McG. And what is it? I love it. He's doing his RuPaul. He's getting sassy. He's going sassy. He's voguing. He's got his belt on and he's got... Well, you know what? What I love about that is that you can afford to be it. I could be as femmed out as I want. You don't like it? It's like that guy in Gold's Gym. He's getting dressed and this Mexican cat. I know this because I'm standing at the front desk and the guy comes to complain. This Mexican cat is getting dressed in Gold's Gym locker room and some white guy is staring at him. You know, and then he's, because of class confusion, he's used to maybe white guys being afraid of him. And so he says, "Yo, bro, what's up?" What he didn't know is that the white bro was a regular customer, if you know what I mean. I mean, a fucking recidivist, Jack. I mean, a dude who was in and out of fucking prison. And he throws his towel down and walks up and says, "I will fuck you up against these lockers. Say another word. Say another word." And the guy just, he does what exactly a smart person does in that situation. Doesn't say another word, except he gets out of that locker room and comes to the front desk, talks to my friend who I happen to be, who works with, and my friend goes, "You want me to go talk to him?" He goes like, no. He goes, "Well, I'm just telling you, you got a problem here." And he fucking vamooses. So I start looking for the locker room to see if, I said, "Hey man, I was pretty unsympathetic because fuck those guys." What do you mean those guys? Yeah, there's always somebody complaining about it. And I was like, okay, as long as it's not driven by racial animus, I look to see the regular customer come out. I don't see it. My point is, I don't know what the point was. I got kind of far afield. No, my point is that picking your shot, this is actually not my point, but I remember where I wanted to go with this, which is calling out Brock Lesnar was my point was you can be as femmed out as you want if you can pull that shit off. So Johnny Boney Joni voguing with his belt, cool. Good on you, bro. Secure enough in your fucking masculinity to play it any way you want. I like that. Calling out Lesnar. Fucking calling out Lesnar. That was, I mean, yeah, because everybody's looking at McGregor going, 100 mil? 100 mil. And they're playing this really well in these video packages, and they're showing, but there are 2 target zones in boxing. What do they call it? Science. MMA is fighting. Boxing, I'll go for that. Like Lampley said, it's a science. You can hit somebody in the mid-set. I say 2 target zones, but that's not even it. You can hit somebody in the arms, destroy their arms, so they can't fucking hit you at all. You can also move your head a lot, so their arms get like lead. But you know what? It happens. This is how fighting started. And I'm sure McG, outside of $100 million, he's in that dirty, hairy position of, I gots to know. I gots to know. $100 million makes it nicer. Johnny Boy Joni said, "It's been a few years, man. I haven't fought in a few years. Got to eat." I started to remember when Mike Tyson finally left the boxing game that he was like $25 million in debt. I go, how's that guy going to pay that money without that money? Well, Mike Tyson's in movies and TV. He gets residuals of some kind. I think probably, I don't know if fighters get it based on Joe Louis. I'd say fighters probably don't get a pension. But he's got to work, so he's doing stuff. Every time you see Mike Tyson on TV, I'm assuming he's getting paid for that. Every time you see me on TV, I've gotten paid for it. I even get paid for this. Not enough, clearly, to afford pants, but So he's like, I need to, and what you think Lesnar wants to fight Overeem again? What makes the fight challenging is that the edges on both sides. They're They're pre and post excusing on both sides. A loss doesn't mean anything, and a win means a lot. It's like having sex with somebody who is much less attractive than you. You are completely relaxed, and they are completely happy. It's a win-win. It becomes not a win when you look too closely. You know, by which I mean, you know, sitting in public. The fuck? The public gets involved. We look at, you know what? Cyborg just beat the fuck out of Roy Nelson. That's not good. That doesn't look good. I see we burnt up all the time. We didn't talk about the other fights on the card, and there's a reason for that. I picked Jones, I picked Woodley, I picked Cyborg, I picked Robbie. They all won. I picked Manuel, I picked Knight, and I picked Barao. They all lost. I'm over 500. Kid Nate, picked Ortega, Sterling, Lamas, Manoa. So he's one. Fucking A. He picked Lawler, Cyborg, and he picked Maya. So he's 2 down, and I'm 3 down. So Kid Nate is, but he blew it on the bigger cards, the ones that he bet money on. So I mean, clearly my energies were more severely focused on the bigger cards, bigger portions of the card. The Cyborg thing, I'll say very quickly. She could have dispatched Roy Nelson in the first round. I mean Evinger, and she didn't, because I think her corner and everybody, meaning essentially Big Head, Tito, thought, look at this like a sparring match. You know, this is to show people, you know, reintroduce you to people. So he ended too soon. You've not given them anything. I believe she purposefully stretched it out to third so we could see. It was like an exhibition match. Good on Evinger for taking it. I would say stay away from plastic surgery. Cristiano, Justino, Cyborg with no longer Santos. It's not so much the facial. I suspect that she was taking growth hormone based on the look, and then people try to fix it like Mickey Rourke, and the surgery makes it worse. I think fighters should endeavor to stay away from lip surgery of any kind based on the kind of abuse that your lips take when you fight. It ends up just looking like bad Play-Doh. There's a photo of her on one of my pages with her and my kids, and she does not look like the same person. It's probably a combination of growth hormone and bad plastic surgery. Breaks my heart. Really sweet woman. Woodley, what can I say? Fighting to not lose is different from fighting to win. You know, his attitude is incredibly healthily cynical. It's like, yeah, there's my, you don't like it? There, you know what? Because I got the belt. So there, fuck you. Dana's like, it was the most boring fight ever. You know what, Dana? The bald one? I saw the bald one tweeting, unless he's got a little fucking camera, which he's sitting right on the edge of the stage. I don't know. I saw him tweeting during Johnny Boy Joni DC. When Johnny Boy Joni had him, and I noticed it when I was Zaprudering it. He's got DC on the floor, and you can see the bald one kind of in the back at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock on the clock dial. See him sitting there, and he's looking at his lap. Who the fuck are you tweeting? Don't know, but he was tweeting. So for him to get upset with Woodley, if I'm Woodley at home, I go, got the belt. Talk about GSP and Bisping all you want. You know, and I have to say there was a certain magic to stuffing all those, but I was yawning during the fight. And then hanging out with Funky Ben Askren, who I didn't realize was as tall as he was. I don't know what that was about. But like I said on my tweet storm, lay down with Askren, you get up with Doles. Lawler, yeah, you know what? I'm a big Lawler booster. Guy's a class act. And Joe tried to lure him, as somebody pointed out in the comments, Joe tried to lure him into the Lost Battalion by getting him to say something inadvisable, like I'm going to bear, and he just didn't. He just didn't go for it. He said, you know, I'm thinking about Matt Hughes mostly Matt Hughes. Nice seeing the guys there from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If somebody could set up a fucking camera to film your actual life, I think the one-to-one correlation between who they are in camera and who they are. I mean, clearly, Charlie is not quite as stupid as he is, but this it gave me great pleasure to see these guys. Manuel, what can I say? He fucked me over. But if I had known that Volkan was Rumble's sparring partner, I would have taken it much more seriously. I had forgotten that. Knight, Hillbilly, man, I picked him. It was sad. That was a bit of a jump. That's a cautionary tale. Don't go from 15-3. Go 15-10, maybe increments of 5. But that's a big fucking jump. I could understand Cool Hand Luke saying I want to eat 50 eggs. But eating 50 eggs is something else. I'm down over time now. And Barao, I think what happened to Barao has everything to do with a weight cut. He ruined my pick. Don't know what to tell you. But it was nice to see Aljamain Sterling get further away from the mist and the wood pile. And I was thinking, man, he's in a good place now. And then he says, my boy Chris. And then I couldn't find him anymore. And says I just couldn't find him. And somebody said, Misty train tracks, that Barao skipped over the Misty train tracks on his way to the Phantom Toll booth. Strong possibility. So this fight was manly top to bottom. I mean, manly is not the word. Mighty top to bottom. Drug got his kick, and it shows that we're still here. We're still listening and paying attention. If you were Sean Shelby, also known as Keith, if you were the bald one, I don't know what you have planned post August 26th, but coming on the heels of August 26th, you have to announce something that's going to kill. Do whatever you got to do to get to Lesnar, but there's got to be a giant announcement. Not contingent on it has to be regardless what happens with this fight. I'm going to say whether McGregor wins or loses. You got to have something. You got our eyes. You got our attention. You got 8 more shows for fucking Knuckle Up before I go a la flambe. You know, you gotta make something good happen with what's left of 2017. I just interviewed Scott Coker. Talk about that later. On Tuesday, we got If I Did It Tuesday night. Wednesday, probably don't care for you if there's a fight next weekend. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm gonna be in Las Vegas. I'm gonna be at the pole competition Saturday, but it'll be over by the fight time. So if there's a fight, we'll see it. But anyway, come up with something. Come up with something. You guys can split the difference with boxing, but you got to come up with something. Anyway, this is round number 259. I am your host, Eugene S. Robinson, where the S stands for smoking. Thanks for coming. See you Tuesday night. Go underneath it where it says thumbs up and thumbs down and give us a thumbs up, except for that one guy who's out there who's like, well, I watched your whole show. You suck. Thumbs down. That guy does it in the first 2 seconds, no matter what I say. I can say I'm giving gold bars to everybody. You suck. If you want to go to Twitter, it's at Eugene S. Robinson, all run together naturally. That's all open now. I've thrown it open to the world. Instagram is still gated. Mr. Sleep 3. That Mr. Sleep is a name I used to use when I would beat people up for money. That's another story for another time. Anyway, this is the end of the show. We'll see you soon next week. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Look what you made me do!